So good to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today to open up your world. I appreciate it.
Excellent. Let's go.
Okay, so to begin with, I know that we're kind of fatigued by this, but at the end of the day, COVID was such a big shapeshifter for all of us. How did you get through that pandemic era, and how has it affected you and your life living today?
Yeah, that's a really good question. If I look back at the COVID pandemic, it was interesting, right? I was in Canada back then. It's before I worked in the US. I worked in the US right after the pandemic, and how we went through it as organizations was exceptionally interesting if you look back, right? Of course, it was a really sad period. A lot of people struggled, but it taught us a whole lot about work, about life, about work-life balance, right? And if you just think back about the world of work, and I have a lot of my friends in corporate functions and organizations, and in a matter of a nanosecond, the whole world that was 9 to 5 in the office, living in a very fixed reality, had to adjust and adapt. And oh, we never thought finance function could work remote. And all of a sudden they had to. Everybody went home and then the business continued to run, right? And everybody had to adapt. So it forced the world to adapt to a brand new reality. So how did I do that? I was actually at home with my family, living a great life, working from my basement, doing stuff that I never thought I had time to do, still working with my teams, building relationships in new with new ways, new methods, new means. So it was so much learnings, I would say, right? It was a lot of fun. It was a new reality. Of course, we had to do really difficult things. We had to make difficult decisions. We had to go through it, but it taught the world resilience. And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of learnings that came through that resilience. And I think we're probably stronger today. In all honesty, I believe it's a bit I'm worried that we're getting back in our old ways. Let's bring people back in the office. Let's do things the way we used to do it. And now, because we can't find the right balance, I think we need to figure out the new world of work and what it means, and remember what COVID has taught us. But of course, the pandemic, as much as it was a hard moment for humanity, also was a good learning phase, I think, for all of us personally and from organizations.
So let's get into we before we got on in earnest here, we were talking about music, but let's get into exactly what you do right now. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of
Yep.
kids, 12-year-olds. It's career day. The kid in the back of the room that's always curious is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" What's your answer?
Yeah, I work in HR, right? So I'm a passionate about people, and I help organizations perform through helping their talent ecosystem. That's what I like to do. I like to share knowledge. I like to help companies, help people grow, and I like to help the world of work get into the future. I like what That's what I do. That's what I do. That's what I'm passionate about, is make others shine, make others rise, and make organizations perform. So that's what I'm really passionate about.
Right on. So let me ask you this. When you were a kid, as we mentioned with music, what was your dream? What did you want to be when you grew up?
Of course, it's very interesting, right? I came and I know hockey is not as big in the US, but it's getting bigger, which is
Yeah.
was good. But I grew up playing hockey. I played very good senior level hockey, and then I when I and so that taught me a whole lot. I thought I'd be Patrick Roy, right? I thought I would be the goalie in the NHL, and that's what I worked really hard to become. And when the day I realized that I would never become a professional hockey player because I wasn't big enough, fast enough, or good enough, I actually decided to do something much like more brilliant, which is start a punk band. So then I moved into a punk band. So then I thought I'd be the Foo Fighters, right? I thought I'd be Nirvana. I thought I'd be playing in one of the world's biggest bands. So we worked really hard. We did really good things. 2 professional albums, signed by a label, toured with many bands, you know. We played gig at the Vans Warped Tour. We played with many big bands from Canada and around the world. And then and when we realized you're not good enough and you're still poor and you didn't make that hit, then I thought I'd be a musician. Then I said, you know what? It was always about sharing, was always about performing, was always about this. If you look at music, the passion of music and broadcasting to music to others and make people feel something special, it was always about this. I'm not an emotional kind of guy, right? I don't cry easily, and I'm not that type of person. But one of the things that moves me is music, right? Because
Yep.
I like the fact that music can create emotions, and that's why I like all music genres. That's why I like all kind of music, all many different music artists. Same with business. I like all types of organizations. I'm passionate about how we can make people feel to move mountains. Doesn't matter where you go, doesn't matter the industry, doesn't matter that what jobs you do, is how you connect people, how you connect processes, people, and technology to make something spectacular. That's what I love about it.
What was the first live concert you saw that blew you away?
It's Iron Maiden. So it
Okay.
was one of the early shows of Iron Maiden, Bruce Dickinson, in at the Colisée de Québec. That was, I can remember which year that was, but it was I think when Fear of the Dark got out, when it was an exceptional concert, they were one of my favorite bands. The musicality, the theater vibe of what it was, and the grandeur of the show. But it was such an inspiring moment that was like, that's what I want to do. Like, I found something that was magical, and you could feel everybody around you, and you can see what how people felt, and the amount of passion that there was. So that was exceptional.
So take me back to your childhood. What were these foundational elements about your childhood that gave you this love of variety, of music, of business, of HR is a very people-driven industry? How did all of these things get sown and evolve into you today?
And I don't like to say it's about luck, but I always say your environment shapes you, right? I was lucky and very fortunate to be in an awesome environment. I had people around me that were awesome. I find my parents, they were awesome. I was raised in a good neighborhood with good parents, with good values. I had a big brother who was my idol, that I followed through his steps back when, and I wanted to get better than him. And of course, the relationship between brothers can be so interesting. He's still a good friend today. And I think all of those experiences, true, you get good friends, you play hockey, you do something different, you try something. I played all the sports I could find. I was always into competitive sports. I like to win. I like to push. I like to push boundaries. I was always a bit of a rebel inside of me. I've never been that very corporate in the box kind of guy, right? So I've very much been and you can just imagine what I was named president of one of the businesses I worked with in the United States for one of their lines of business. And I still remember that one of the guys said, "Hey, who's our new boss?" And we were at a corporate event, and they said, "Look at the guy that looks the least like the boss." Right? So I was always that guy that tried to do different things, to be different, to bring different ideas. I tried many sports. I tried different music. I played the tribute to Iron Maiden from theater, and from punk, and from rock, and from all of the things that I like. So I've always been curious and love to learn and love many things. So that's how it shaped me to become who I am today, which is still always curious, learning about stuff. That's how I got to where I am, I guess. It's true learning and curiosity.
Did you have one central figure and inspiration that has allowed you to kind of find your voice, to find these passions, to find this love of life? Has there been like a hero for you?
Uh, Yes and no. I've had multiples, right? So depending of where you look, I've had multiples. I spoke about Patrick Roy was my idol, which I had the chance to meet him, and he was an exceptional goalie for so many reasons. He was the guy that performed when timing was right. He was the guy that could rise to the occasions when times were tough. He's the guy that bounced back. He was the guy that always inspired me in tougher times to go back and go do it. I'm a big Dave Grohl fan, so I like the guy from Resilience and nicest guy in rock and roll, and what he's done through all the challenges he's lived and how he makes his music live. I've always loved Greg Graffin from Bad Religion, right? So he's the singer and leader of Bad Religion. The guy is a PhD in zoology. The guy teaches in university, so he's not the typical punk rocker. So I've always had those figures. My dad was a big inspiration for me in his business sense. I've met a lot of very inspiring business people in my life. I'm not sure if you know, but there's a big company which is Tanguay, which is big furniture shop. Jacques Tanguy was one of the owners. Jacques was a man I had the chance to collaborate with and meet. He was such an inspiring businessman. He had great career, great charisma, but he didn't overplay it. He was just a kind business guy, smart, sharp. Like so, I've had a lot of idols and inspirations through my career that inspired me to get better and at least learn. I like to learn, and it's just what I was saying earlier. I like to take things from multiple places,
Yeah.
right? So I don't have one single path. I take things everywhere. So I find inspiration in so many different things.
So was Roy awesome meeting him? Was he a great guy?
Oh, he was such a great guy, but he was also not intimidating, but the presence, right? So I
Yeah.
was a young goalie in a team that he owned in junior, and he walked in and shook our hands, and I'm like, shit, I grew up wanting to be that guy, right? And that guy, and like the charisma, is a big guy, he's sharp, he's straight, he looks at you in the eyes. You're like, oh shit, and he was so kind, right? And
Yeah.
then you say, hey, I'm the goalie, right? So
Yeah.
it's a very I always wanted to be you. I didn't say that, but of course he probably knows, right? So all the kids in Quebec that grew up playing hockey wanted to be him at some point. So it was a very interesting experience, and I've had the chance to cross that with him in other functions after that and more casually. He was always very kind. He didn't overplay it. I like people that are down to earth,
Yeah.
that are approachable, and he always felt to me that way.
So let me ask you this. As a creative, as a musician, you're dealing with right and left brain things, being in business and then being in the music world. How much of living that life as a musician, being on the road, going after this dream, right brain kind of world, lent to this left brain business HR world that you're in now?
Such a wonderful question, by the way, Joe. That's awesome because I like to tell that story all the time because I think creativity is actually a very powerful asset for business. One of the conferences, and I've never actually done it, but that's one of the things I worked on that I wanted to do and never end up doing it, is I do a lot of talks and shows and conferences and as a public speaker. And then one of the things I always wanted to do is bring a bunch of business people that know nothing about music and say in 1 hour of conference, we'll write a song together. So take a few chords, get the creativity out of it when organizations, because I believe that even if you're put in the right format and you put your brain in the right place, everybody can create.
Yeah.
Everybody can create something wonderful. So, and that's what I like, and that's what I bring from my music days to my organizations. Of course, I bring. I'm an inspiring leader. I've been told that so many times because I can speak, I can explain, I have a vision. Just that is music, right? It's creativity, it's vision, it's bringing people along, it's telling a story. Just that part is so important for a leader in organizations. But also, music is about systems,
Hmm.
right? It's not just we do everything. There are rhythms and there's pieces and there's a product. There's a north chart in music, right? So if you think about the way we create, I always like the sentence. There's science behind the madness, right? And I've always thought that corporations have a lot of science, but not enough madness. And sometimes there's too much madness and not enough science. So
Yeah.
the key for me is always finding that equilibrium or that balance between creativity being all there thinking ideas, but we also need to get stuff done. Right. So how you bring music to life is the same as how you bring organization to perform. There's a lot of similarities in there, but organization need that creativity because when it's all systems and processes, it gets boring and organizations don't have great cultures and often die.
So there's always a core urge for us to get up in the morning when that alarm clock goes off. What is that motivation for you to get out into the world and to do it?
That's also a great question. I would say win. I like to win. I,
Yeah.
I, I like to do something great. Like everybody says, you're always up there, you're always upbeat, you always have that energy and that positivity because I always want to win,
Yeah.
right? So if I go in and I'm like, "Nah, nah, nah, it's going to be a crap day," then everybody else is going to have a crap day around you. If you
Yeah.
go in and you have and Dave Grohl says this in one of his quotes, but be someone's light when they're hopeless. So every morning I get up, I try to do something great. I'd like to win. I like to make people rise and shine. So it's always about people. It's always about doing something that's magical, that gives me energy to do something fun and exciting. Right? My whole boss, who's a woman that I respect extremely, that I have the most utmost respect, and she's exceptional, one of the best leaders I've ever seen. She always said that. I said, Dom, you're one of the guy that uses the word fun the most I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, but it has to be fun, right?
Yeah,
Everything we do, it has to be fun. We have to have fun in what we do. We have to do it with intentions, with positive intentions and motives.
absolutely. So, as a writer, what was the first book when you were a kid that you read that either made you want to write someday or made you want to read more?
It's going to be very, very, very interesting. One of the books that I was just talking about this with my daughter the other day. She's probably going to have to write it. I think she's in a, but it's school system in Quebec is different, but that would be grade nine. She's going to grade nine now.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the name of the book in English. It's the world of Sophie's world. It's a philosophical
Sophie's Choice?
I'm not. Is it Sophie's Choice or Sophie's World? Le Monde de Sophie in French, I believe the title was,
Okay.
and uh, it's Le Monde de Sophie. What was it in English? Uh, I don't even know what the word. Sophie's World. Sophie's World.
Sophie's World.
So
Okay.
it's Sophie's World. I just looked it up.
Okay.
Uh, and then that book was about anyway. It was just a philosophical book about that taught you that's something we had to read in philosophy. I was not a big reader back then, and I was, and it was a brick of like I don't know. It's a big book, right? I remember back then looking at it, going, "Oh, I'm never gonna go through this. It makes no sense." And I started and I couldn't stop. And from
Wow.
there, I read so many philosophical books that gave me the passion to read. And it was the start of me reading, I don't know, hundreds of books, right? So
Yeah.
through the years and writing books and passionate about writing and it was such an exceptional, well done stories about I have memories of those chapters. It was kind of small stories inside of stories that taught you about philosophy and life. And I was like, oh my God, this is so inspiring. So it just gave me the envy to continue reading, and I read quite a bit after that. And I'm passionate about reading and writing today, more than probably ever.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. If you had a chance to get into a time machine and go back in time and run into yourself at 18, ready to go out into the world and do it, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've gained, what advice would you give that young version of you?
That's a great question. What advice would I give? And it's probably, you know what I do? I would just explain what my father meant. Because when you're a kid and your father
Uh-huh.
explains that life is all about balance, right?
Yeah.
My dad was always about, Dom, keep the balance. Your balance is off, go back to balance. Don't, it's not about like work hard, play hard concept, but somewhere in the middle has the balance, right? You can have fun, you got to work hard, you got to do something serious, but you also got to let it out, right? So, and it was always about, my father's always about explaining me this. And you don't really realize what he means. Right? You're all about, oh, yeah, I get it. And you think you know. But I'd go to that kid and say, hey, buddy, and this is what I tell my daughter today. And I hope I'm going to do a better job than he did in explaining what it means. But I would go and never underestimate the value of that advice, which is balance is everything.
Yeah.
It's never too dark. It's never too shiny. It's always somewhere in the middle, never too high, never too low. Stay there, stay focused. Don't go too much on one side. Don't go too much on the other side. Figure out that truth always sits in the middle. There's always a balance somewhere.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If you walked into a room of everybody that knows you from an HR, a business sense, and you could tell them a fun story about being on the road with the band, one of your favorite sports, hockey moments that you lived, just a really good, fun story, what would you tell that room of people?
Oh, I have so many stories I could tell. By the way, I love to tell stories. So
Yeah.
let me try to pick one, right? So
Yeah.
And I'm gonna try to find one that has purpose, right? So I'm gonna
Yeah.
try to find one that has purpose. But okay, I'll tell you a story. So we were at one of our tours somewhere in, I don't know, 2000, early 2000s. I can't remember exactly the year, but we were touring and then we were doing a bunch of bar shows, right? There was a lot of bar shows and small events. Some of them were small, some of them were big, but the end of the tour was a big show at the Agora de Quebec, which is a big outside stadium, bunch of bands. It was a kind of a music festival. We were playing. The headliner was Sum 41. We were playing before them, of course, and then they were recording that day. They were recording a show for one of their radio stations. They were recording a show for a radio station, and every band had to write a song that became an album, right? So, and then the night before, it was so funny. The night before, we had a show in a town, maybe an hour and a half from there. We played and we played and we played, and the party got started, and we played until, I don't know, probably 3 a.m. in the morning. Got to bed at like 5 a.m. in the morning, and the next morning we had to get up to get to our van, to get to our place, and then and record a song live, playing a show with Sum 41. And then you can imagine that after a 4 or 5 hours of playing, no voice, completely dead, we had to like sleep in the van, get in the van, forgot one of our guys because the guy was still sleeping and we didn't realize he wasn't in the van, went back to get him, got to the place, did the sound check in the afternoon, tried to get an hour's sleep. Everybody was completely destroyed. And then we had to get up for one of our very important shows, and then nobody can know, right? So, and that was one of the things that we got on stage that night and we performed better than we've ever done. And there's still videos of that on YouTube. And then we performed like never before. And you can still hear in the chorus, we have no voice,
Yeah.
right? So all the back vocals aren't perfect. You can still hear our voices are scrappy and rough, but the musicality, despite the party and all of that, we still got up and made it happen despite everything. And then because we had to live with the consequences of our actions of the previous night, but we also had to make it happen because it
Yep.
was an important gig for us. And that day we made something magical, and there's still moments of vivid memories of that in my head of like, oh my God, that was a night. And had a beer with the guys from Sum 41 after that, and like, and you go to bed that night, you're like, we made it happen. I don't know how we did it, but
Yep.
we did
I love it.
it.
That is totally cool, man. So, of everything, of all these adventures and everything you've done, and more importantly, evolved to, what are you the proudest of?
I'm proud of the teams I've built and the magic of what we've created, right? So throughout my career, I'm proud of my band, what we could accomplish. I'm proud of my teams. I'm proud of my beer league hockey team. We're a bunch of guys having fun together. I'm proud of my snowboard company. We're a bunch of guys having fun, doing something great. I'm proud of the teams I've built in my prior business. I love what we had done. I love how people rise, and I'm so proud of NexWav and what we're doing today, where we're just and in my book, it's about transforming companies, right? But it's mostly about creating cultures. If you read underneath and you read the lines, it's about people and culture. And what I'm the most proud of is how lucky and grateful I am to have worked with so many inspiring, amazing people throughout my career, and all those teams we've built together and all those things we've achieved. That's that's what I would say is I'm the proudest of. And you know what? Now that's second. My daughter is first. My
Yeah,
daughter is the thing I'm the
totally.
most proud of. She's an incredible human being, and I'm so proud of that little girl. And she's no longer very little. She's now a teenager, which is kind
Right.
of interesting.
Well, they'll always be
She's
little to
probably
us.
what I'm the most proud
Yeah,
of.
totally. So let's take that baton a little bit further here. Everyone has an idea of who they think you are, a perception. Family, friends, clients, everyone that gets your books, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm a crazy guy. I'm still a kid at heart. I'm a crazy guy that loves to inspire and build and build things and do things with people, for people, and help the world and create connections. I'm that guy that likes to have fun and share that fun, but also share that performance, right? So it's I believe when we have fun, we can perform. I believe when our mind's right, that's where we get the best out of people. So I'd say I'm the leader that that spends a whole lot of energy and time trying to get the best out of people and organizations. That's what I say. That's who I am.
I love it. So let me ask you this. Time machine pulls up in front of your house when we get off this call. You can go to one hockey game in the history of hockey, and you can go to one concert in the history of music. Where are you going to go?
Oh my God, that's a great question. One hockey game or one Sidney Crosby golden goal last Vancouver Olympics.
Okay.
So Sidney Crosby's goal. So that I would have want to be there just to celebrate that goal. Sorry for all my American friends. I love you all, but
Yeah, I dig it.
I love that. I love that goal. So I would say Sidney Crosby's golden goal.
And then what about concert? What would be the concert you would go to?
Um, Foo Fighters live at Wembley. I'm not sure
Yeah.
what year, but live at Wembley. I have a video of that
Yeah.
concert. Oh my God, this was ridiculous. So it's Foo Fighters live at Wembley,
I had a
Wembley
feeling it
Stadium.
was I had a feeling it was going to be the Foo Fighters. I saw Dave Grohl, I saw the Foo Fighters in the early years when they were at a place that we had here in Kansas City called Sandstone, and he was walking around the crowd just like totally interacting. It was awesome. So hey, if anyone wants to pick up your books, anybody wants to reach out, anybody has any questions, they want more, where do they go?
Yeah, so very easy to find. LinkedIn, I respond to most, I would say all, but sometimes I might forget one. But most messages I get, private messages I get on LinkedIn. Of course, you can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, Dom Levesque. Of course, my books are on Amazon. So Dominic Levesque, if you find it, my book's now already a bestseller on Amazon, so which I'm very proud of. My second book, my first book's also there. You can find it. And then don't hesitate, reach out. Let's get the conversation. I'm easy to find. I love to talk. I love to chat. So I look forward to it. And Joe, thank you so much for the opportunity. That was a whole
Yeah,
lot of fun.
yeah,
And
dude. Absolutely,
I
man. No,
expected
you're
that, but it was great.
yeah, no, you're incredible, man. This has been an absolute honor and a joy. Thank you, sir. Best of luck, continued success. I really appreciate your time, man.
All right, you take care. Take care, Joe. We'll speak soon. Cheers.
Cheers.
All
Looking to
right.
get new clients to your business through cold calling or email marketing? At Agency Y, they envision a world in which small and big companies have equal chances to win new customers in the market. Their purpose is to bring parity and reduce the gap between large and small firms with the help of their cold calling and cold email marketing services. Use the code Joe Dimino 10 at www.agencyyyy.org/coldcallingjoe.php or www.agencyyyy.org/emailmarketingjoe.php to get 10% off your first order. This is Joe Dimino of Neon Jazz and Famous Interviews, and I stand behind Agency Y to meet your business dreams.